Hey guys, this is Nick Brown at JTech today, and today I am going to be teaching you guys of how to do an alignment on a Class A truck. Okay. Today we're going to be using partially a laser alignment system, a laser easy alignment system, as well as we're going to be also using some of my tricks of how to make things a little bit simpler for the laser alignment system. This is the expensive way of doing it. You can go and you can buy yourself the easy laser alignment system for the truck. It makes it, like I said, it makes it a lot easier to align the truck. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to get on here today is toe. Okay. Now, basically, if I were measuring just a basic toe, I would measure from the front of this wheel, front of this tire, all the way to the other steer axle tire. In this case, we are on the steer axle. We're at the front of the truck, and we're on a single axle International Transtar. Okay. Basically, what I'm measuring is I put my laser on the frame down there. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's kind of dark. Okay. I have my laser down there connected to the frame, as well as I have my adjuster down here balanced with the laser on one end of it. The laser is kind of moving because of the wind outside, so our measurements are going to be slightly off. But I did measure earlier when there was no wind because there's a storm about to roll through. The distance between the frame and the front, this laser and this laser was 27 and 26 3/4 inch. Okay. Now on the other side, it was 26.5 inches. Okay, so basically what I'm measuring is, let's just say the manufacturer spec says, hey, the distance between that frame and this tire needs to be 26 3/4 inch. Okay, this tire, that means this tire is aligned to this frame. Okay, and that's just for one side, the steer axle. Now if I go to the other side and I measure that and that one's not the same, that way I know that part of the steer axle is off adjustment and it's not up to manufacturer spec. That's why I measure it separately. Okay. So moving on to part 2, guys. So we're on the second part of the truck alignment video. Okay. So what I have set up right here is I have the laser set up at the middle of the front steer axle tire, as well as I have it centered on the back drive axle tire. Okay. So what I'm measuring is I'm measuring the scrub, which basically that is the distance between the steer axle and the first drive axle. In this case, this truck has a single axle. Okay. What happens is when you line up the front drive axle with the steer axle and you got everything squared up, what you'll do is, like on that truck back there, is you'll take your rear axle, your rear drive axle, and you'll base it off what this is. Okay, very simple. I'll show that in a different video. Okay, so basically what you do is you measure from the front steer axle all the way to the drive axle. You do the same thing for the other side. What this is measuring, now go back, is basically you have a straight frame. Let's just say the axle, if I'm looking at it from an aerial view, let's just say the axle's a little bit inclined like that. Okay, it's not straight. Okay, let's just say these tires are pointed 2 degrees that way, which therefore would make these tires pointed 2 degrees that way. Okay, that would be as far as driver complaints go, that would be the truck not tracking properly. Okay, if these tires are pointed 2 degrees that way, the distance between the front steer axle and the rear drive axle would be shorter than this distance. Okay, so therefore you want to look up your manufacturer specifications, okay, to center this axle up with the front steer axle. Alright. Alright, what I'm doing right here is I'm measuring axle offset, and this basically has to do with how the axle places against the frame. Okay? Now let's just say this part of the axle over here is pointed more that direction, or let's just say this is basically all it has to do with centering with the frame. Okay, this part of the axle is farther away from the frame than that part of the axle. Okay, this one's in a little bit more, this one's out a little bit more, and we need to adjust that. Okay, now to find those measurements, you're going to be placing on the Easy Laser alignment system, you're going to be placing one of the lasers on the frame. Okay, then you're going to be placing it centered with the hub. Now what I do is I take a piece of steel and I measure it with the line going parallel. You're going to have the two pieces of metal parallel with each other. Okay? Then you're going to take a tape measure and you're going to measure the distance between those two. Okay? What that does is measuring your axle offset. Okay? In this case, I measured it and we have 28 and a half inches. Okay, on this side, and we have 28 inches on that side. Okay, making things simplistic for you guys. Okay, so we know that this axle needs to be pushed over a quarter of an inch. Okay, if I have 28 inches on that side, I have 28 and a half inches on this side. We need to push it over a quarter of an inch to get it centered, so that way that side is 28 and a quarter inches, this side is 28 and a quarter inches. Okay? Basically what that will do is that will center the axle up with the frame, and the truck will track properly.